wants you to format everything. Even though it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect the numbers or anything, he just wants you to make it look nice for some reason. If you submit something that looks like this, you will not get full marks for some reason. So make sure you format it. That's easy. It's like 3 marks, right? And by format, I mean like you can just, I don't know, something like highlight it all, and then format cells, you can add a order or something. Wow, it's really fast there. Order, and then it looks a little bit nicer, but do it for the whole thing. I didn't realize it wasn't. You freeze these top panes, that kind of stuff. Anyway, we don't care too much. We got the data. We want to make it look closer to something like this. And the way we do that is, so you notice there are 4 columns there in this one. So we have 90-day annualized percentage rates as our first column, column B. And then we have 90-day T-bill monthly rates, and then we have 90-day yeah, okay, he did it in opposite order, so that's fine. So what we need are, so we need to put this in basis points. The way we do that is we just divide it by 100. So we can say equals, and we take the return that we have, we divide it by 100, and we have it in basis. Then we want things in monthly returns, because these are annualized returns. We take our basis value, and we just divide it by 12. So we say take this, divide it by 12, and now we have our monthly return. I'm sure you guys know this because you're probably all super awesome at Excel, but you can click the bottom corner of this cell twice, and it'll bring down your formula to all the cells. And so then we don't need to do it for every cell, we just do it for the top cell, then we're done. So we have all of this now, which is good. So our Fred data is done. We have the monthly returns for the 90-day treasury rate. So this is like a risk-free rate. And we can format it, and it'll look like this. And those are the values that we actually just calculated. So the last column is the one that we really care about. Now, raw CRSP data, when you import it, it should look not exactly like this. This has already been formatted a little bit. The raw CRSP data is a little bit misleading. What it will look like is this. Oh no, so, okay, sorry. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So we have Apple and we have Costco when we import our data. But we want them to be right next to each other. So we want them to actually be such that we see one date, and next to that date we see Costco's return, we see Costco's return without dividends, we see Apple's return, we see Apple return without dividends. So all that really entails is, taking this, making sure that you have 85, 10, 31, and that you can copy all of this. Or I guess cut would be more appropriate. And then you can find for Apple 85, 10, 31. And then they line up. These 2 first entries, these -88 and -66, those are error codes. We don't want them. And we only want data that lines up. And so we don't care about all this stuff up here. So we're going to just delete all of this stuff above. So we delete all of those. And we're left with something that looks like this. Now, of course, we don't really need this column. These things here, these per-no things, those are garbage. We don't want those. We don't need this. So we can delete a bunch of things, but make sure we label things first. So this is Apple's return. Then we'll have Apple's return without dividends. Then we'll have S&P 500. This is another date that we won't need. We won't need this. We won't need that. This is going to be Costco's return. This is going to be Costco's return without dividends. Then we're going to have the S&P 500 again. We only need one of those. So we can delete all of these columns. You can delete these two columns. And we're left with a date, Apple's return without dividends, Costco's return without dividends, and the S&P composite return for that date. And then he wants you to take this, format it, put it in nice looking format of some kind, and it should look something like this. I don't know why. Oh, let's see. Well, the format should look like this, but the numbers should look like this. Now, one last thing we need to do is we want to include the risk-free rate. Now, that's what we got from our Fred data. But the thing is, we have a bunch of dates here, and we want the risk-free rate for each one of these dates. But if we were to look at our Fred data, we've got a bunch of dates, and they are not necessarily exactly in line with the dates that we have in our raw CRISP data. So what we do is something called VLOOKUP. So equals VLOOKUP. And so we're going to choose our lookup value. Our lookup value is the date. So you can click on the date here. Put a comma. Table array. Table array is going to be where we want to search. And so we go to our Fred data, and we search these 4 columns. You can put a comma again. The column index number that we want to search in is going to be D. So that's going to be our 4th column, so we can put a 4. And then this range lookup, you can either set it to be true or false. If you set it to be false, then it's going to look for exact matches of things, and those don't necessarily exist, and so we're going to put true. And then we find that the risk-free rate for this date is about 0.006108, so on. And we can, once again, just double-click the corner, does the VLOOKUP for all of those dates. So now we have one table. This table includes all of our returns without dividends, the S&P return, and our risk-free rate. And we're done most of what we're doing today, even though things didn't load properly.